Hello and welcome everybody. This is Paras and thanks for joining in. Hope you got a chance to see my previous video on Introduction to Base SAS Interface. In this video we are going to cover how to create and display SAS dataset on the go. So this is my second chapter, creating and displaying SAS dataset of my first module, Base SAS. Okay, so before we jump to Base SAS Interface, let's define SAS dataset. A SAS dataset is a file stored in a library that SAS creates and processes. A SAS dataset contains data values that is organized as number of observations and variables. So number of observation is what you call rows and the variables are called as columns. That can be processed by SAS. A SAS dataset also contains information such as data types and length of the variables that was used to create a SAS dataset. So this is just a random screenshot of a SAS dataset just to show you how a dataset looks like. Here you can see various columns and various rows. There are 5 different columns which represent there are 5 different variables in this SAS dataset, and there are 23 different observations in the dataset. Okay, so let's directly jump to SAS and get going. So let's quickly start from where we ended our previous session. Okay, so let's just create the data set which we created in the last session. Y equals to 20. Run. Then we have a procedure called PROC print, where data was defined as main, and run. We'll just select and hit F8, and this was how the dataset looked like. Now let us modify this a bit more. Now instead of defining the variable separately, we'll introduce two new statements called input and cards. Input is a statement which is used to define what our variables are. We do not use any assignment operator to give the values to these variables. So it's like this: input x, y and z. So you can see we have not given any assignment variable like equals to or so on. To provide the values for these variables x, y and z, we will be using another statement called cards. And here we will be defining the values like 1, 2, 3, 10, 20, 30, 40, 70, 90. So here you can see I have defined the values of x, y and z like 1, 2 and 3 respectively. For further observations in the next lines, the variables means there are different observations for the same variable. So the values of x are 1, 10 and 40. The values of y are 2, 20 and 70. Values of z are 3, 30 and 90. So each of the statement are ended with a semicolon. Let's just get it printed. Let's see how it looks like. So this is how the dataset would look like if you want to see in the output window. The same can be seen in our Explorer window in the library. So remember we saw the dataset in the library called work, and this is how the dataset would look like. Okay, so since we are already in the library, let's discuss more about this particular library called work. Work is a temporary library which SAS uses for its own internal processing. It can be very useful when you want to create a dataset on a fly, or when you want to create a temporary dataset, or when you want to read in a dataset from a source without affecting the original dataset and do different kind of analysis on them. Okay. There is another library called sashelp, and let's go inside and see what is over there. Here there are different data sets which are already provided by SAS. let's use one of the data set, let's use air data set for any of our purpose. So here is a data set called air, and let's run some procedure on this particular air to see more about it. Let's go to the editor window, and I'm going to introduce a new procedure called PROC Contents. Okay, so what PROC Contents does is it's a kind of summary procedure to summarize the contents of a dataset and shows a lot more information. It basically does not show the values of a dataset, but it summarizes the data, like it shows the number of observations, variables, dataset is sorted or not, or the date, time, or the variable and the attribute list. So since we are into the SAS help library and the name of the dataset is air, so let's run this particular procedure PROC content and let's know more about this dataset. So PROC content data equal to SAS help dot air. Run. Let's run this. Okay, so you can see a lot of information about this particular dataset can be seen over here. Here at the top you can see the dataset name as SAS help.air. Then you can see observations are number of observations are 144, number of variables are 2, member type is data, created date, last modified date, dataset is not sorted, it's saying no. Then you can see at the bottom you can see variable list of variables and the attributes, like the variables are air and date. About the attributes will come later to it. So this is a kind of summary information that can be seen from this procedure PROC contents. Okay. In the log you can see that this procedure content just ran successfully with the real time and the CPU time. Nothing much information in the log window. So that was it for today, and what we have done today is we have introduced a new statement called input statement to define the variables. Then we have introduced a statement called cards, is basically is used to assign the values to the variables. Then we explained the PROC print for getting the output. Then the PROC contents is used to summarize the dataset. We went into libraries to understand the work library and the SAS help library, but this will be covered in more detail later on. So that was a very simple way to how to create a dataset for a number of observations. Next session will be more on how to read a dataset using different procedure like PROC import, and we'll be using other statements called in-file statement. So let me open the So next session will be how to import the external data on SAS. Hope you are having a good time learning SAS. Hope to see you in our next session. Thank you very much and take care.